What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Danielle Hallen, and I am back with another true crime video. And today we're looking into an incredibly recent case. This is quite literally unfolding right this minute, right now. There's probably ongoing searches right now. And I don't think I've ever really covered a case this recent. But when I tell you that this story has just been like eating away at my soul. I don't know how else to describe it. I've just needed to get this out to you. And I don't know if it's because this is one of those cases where you look into just the bare minimum details and you're just thinking, oh no, here are all these red flags that I've seen before in another case, or if it's because this is happening way too close to home for me. I am from North Carolina, and this is unfolding just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Cornelius. But it is absolutely imperative to get this story out there, to get this little girl's face out there right now. If there was any time to share on social media, her missing persons poster, this video, any of the resources that I have linked down below, this is a time to do it. So we will be speaking about the disappearance of 11-year-old Madalina Cojocari, who was last seen sometime between the 21st and the 23rd of November 2022. So we're talking just a little under 2 months ago. There is not a lot of good information out there for me to be able to describe who Madalina is, the things that she loves, what her life looks like, what her typical behavior patterns are, because her 37-year-old mother, Diana Cojocari, and her 60-year-old stepfather, Christopher Palmer, have both been arrested for failing to report her missing in a timely manner, which I will obviously get into. So the two people that know the most about her in the United States surrounding her are very tight-lipped and sitting in jail right now. So again, another reason why it's so important to get the story out there. Now, from the information that I managed to gather, Diana and Madalina are originally from Moldova, and while in Moldova, she was a single mother to Madalina and ended up meeting Christopher, who is 20 years older than her and living in the United States, online. And they hit it off. I guess at some point he came over to Moldova, almost immediately proposed, and so ultimately they ended up moving to the United States. And I think that they met sometime around 2013 to 2014. I don't know if they lived anywhere else other than just outside of Charlotte in Cornelius before this, but I do know they had been living in that particular area for around 2 years. Christopher, according to what I've been able to find online, like his LinkedIn, he was a mechanical designer for, I believe, a handful of years, most of his career. And in 2020, he unfortunately lost his job thanks to the pandemic. And he did end up getting another job further from home, began to run a business out of their garage, selling some like etched items, according to neighbors. And when it comes to Diana, no one seems to really have a lot of information about her. Obviously, she has her entire family, everyone she knows back in Moldova, but it doesn't seem that she really got close to anyone when she was in the United States. Her neighbors, according to resources, said that she rarely ever left the home. It was not a common scene to see her out in public. She was very quiet and reserved. According to neighbors, they mainly saw Madalina and Christopher, so this little girl and her stepfather, together majority of the time. He was the one who was always seen taking walks with her in the neighborhood. They went to the pool together. They would play outside together. He was the one who would take her trick-or-treating. This is just what the neighbors have claimed. So I can't say all of that is fact, but this is what neighbors have come forward and stated to reporters. When it comes to Madalina herself, her birthday is April 11th, 2011. She has brown hair, brown eyes. At the time of her disappearance, which again was less than 2 months ago, she stood at about 4'10" and weighs around 90 pounds. She absolutely loves horses, so a girl speaking to my heart, and she is in the 6th grade at Bailey Middle School in Cornelius, North Carolina. And to kind of put that into perspective, Cornelius is like 20 miles north of Charlotte. And that area, there's like portions of it that are rural, but their particular neighborhood is a subdivision off of Victoria Bay Drive. This is a pretty heavily populated area because it backs up to Lake Norman, which is a very popular place for a lot of people just in the state in general to go to. So when it comes to the details of her disappearance, as far as we know, and authorities likely very well know more than us, this is kind of what is known to have happened. So Madalina, again, is in the 6th grade at Bailey Middle School, and she failed to show up to school after Thanksgiving break. Now, she was seen at school Monday, November the 21st, 2022. I'm not sure if she was technically supposed to go to school the following 2 days before Thanksgiving, but regardless, even after Thanksgiving, she was absent day in and day out. And as you guys know, after a certain amount of absences, when there is no communication from the family, there is no note, no nothing, usually a truancy officer gets involved, or just like a school resource officer. And there had been no communication from Madalina's family whatsoever as to why she was not attending school for the next following weeks. And so they were reaching out, trying to contact someone, trying to contact Diana, and they were receiving absolutely no response. And so this resource officer decided they were going to personally go to the home. Now, this is a tricky situation. I feel like even before the pandemic, a lot of the times, kids would have long, crazy absences and schools would just like dismiss it or not follow proper protocol. We've covered cases where it's been like this. And then I feel like the pandemic muddied the waters even more because, quarantine periods can be incredibly long still in some places. And some kids are still virtually schooling, some kids are not. So it's made things very, very tricky. But this resource officer strongly felt that they needed to go to the home and figure out what was going on. And so they did just that on December 12th. It was around 2 p.m. The resource officer showed up to the home on Victoria Bay Drive, and they planned to hopefully speak to someone and leave a truancy packet. But when they knocked, there was no response, so they just left the truancy packet there and headed off. All of a sudden, there was communication from Madalina Cojocari. Now, I cannot recall if it was the 13th or the 14th of December when she ended up calling to the school and requested a meeting in reference to this truancy visit and the packet that had been left behind. And she even stated that she would be bringing Madalina to this meeting. And this meeting was set for December the 15th. And Diana did in fact show up to Bailey Middle School that day. She showed up shortly after 1 p.m., but despite promising that she would bring Madalina, she came alone. And she shocked everyone by saying that she actually had no idea where Madalina was because she hadn't seen her since November 23rd, almost 3 weeks prior. Obviously, as soon as this information was revealed, police were notified and Officer Nobles responded on scene and immediately wanted to speak to Diana about the disappearance of her 11-year-old daughter. And the story that Diana told is interesting. So Diana stated that Wednesday, November 23rd, at around 10 p.m., Madalina went to her room to go to bed. And that was the last time Diana claimed she saw her daughter. Now, she claims that at some point that night, and we don't know if it was before, during, or after Madalina went to bed, that Diana ended up getting in a pretty heated argument with her husband, Christopher. And the following morning, he headed off on a 9-hour drive to Michigan. And she didn't state if this, decision to drive to Michigan 500 miles away was due to the argument or if this is something that had been planned. She just stated that he had family in that area and that he needed to, quote, recover some items. And that was that. Later, the morning of the 24th, so the following day after she had last seen Madalina, it was about 11:30 a.m. and Diana decided to go into Madalina's room to, see what she was doing. It was getting late into the day, and Madalina was nowhere to be found. But despite this information, Diana did not report Madalina as missing. She stated that she was worried that it might start a, quote, conflict between her and her husband. So she simply sat on this information until the 26th of November, 3 days later. Now, she claimed this particular day was when Christopher was returning home from his very short trip to Michigan and that he arrived home at around 7 p.m. Diana said that at this point, she asked him if he had any idea where Madalina was, that she had been gone for 3 days at this point and she couldn't locate her. And Christopher claimed to have absolutely no idea. Now, she said that she didn't want to report Madalina as missing because she didn't want to create conflict with her husband, which makes me wonder if maybe she believed that he had taken Madalina, which is interesting because of something I will state in just a minute. But maybe she just thought that he had her, that he decided to take her, with him to Michigan. I find it interesting if that were the case, that she decided not to call him and ask him that. But regardless, he said that he had no idea where she was. So at this point, Officer Nobles decided to call for backup and instructed Diana to reach out to Christopher and tell him to also come to the school to be questioned as well. So when he arrived, Christopher was questioned by authorities, and he confirmed that he did in fact go to Michigan from the 23rd to the 26th, again to pick up items of some sort, and he actually claimed that he didn't even see Madalina at all the day of the 23rd. So this leads me to believe maybe they got in an argument over the phone, maybe he wasn't there, or maybe he got home after Madalina had already gone to bed. I'm not exactly sure what the family dynamic or situation is, but the strange thing is that not just that, he claimed that he actually hadn't seen Madalina for a week at that point, which is weird because they lived together. Now, he did state that when he got back from his trip that he immediately noticed Madalina was not there and that he was the one to ask Diana if she had any idea where Madalina was, which she said she didn't know. And so he said at this point, he specifically asked Diana if she had hidden Madalina, which is an incredibly strange question to ask somebody. But he claimed that she said that she did not, and even more strange, Diana asked him the exact same question, according to Christopher. Diana said, "Christopher, did you hide Madalina?" And he said no. So at this point, they both have no idea where she is. They've both asked the other partner if either of them hid this 11-year-old girl somewhere. They've both come to the formal conclusion that neither guardian knows where this 11-year-old girl is, and still they do not report her as missing. Now, Christopher even admitted to this officer that he had spoken with Diana numerous times over the next couple of weeks about the fact that their daughter was missing, but for some reason, they just still did nothing about it. Not a single thing. Now, another detective, Detective Patterson, ended up going back and speaking to Madalina Cojocari again. And in this particular conversation, she stated that she had even been in contact with family this entire time as well. Her family in Moldova was aware that Madalina had disappeared, and they had apparently given her advice to report Madalina as missing, but she refused. Elaborate on this statement she had made earlier that she didn't report Madalina as missing because she did not want to create conflict with her husband. She went on to say that she believed her husband had put her family in danger, but did not elaborate on what exactly she meant. Diana confirmed with authorities during this interview as well that when she had been going through Madalina's room after she realized Madalina was missing, she noticed that Madalina's backpack was also gone, along with a handful of items of clothing, which could potentially suggest that Madalina maybe packed up and left. Maybe she was aware of these arguments that were going on and was uncomfortable, or there could be a plethora of reasons. But in that same breath, Diana also stated that Madalina had absolutely no family nearby. All their family is in Moldova. She had no friends that she would have been able to go to. She didn't have a cell phone to contact anyone. Essentially, she had no resources whatsoever other than her mother and her stepfather. So her leaving just didn't seem very plausible. Authorities at this point wanted to go and look at the family home. They wanted to be able to go through Madalina's room to see if there was anything there that could point them in some sort of direction. And I haven't seen them mention anything about what they may have found in her room, but the one thing that is mentioned in reports is that they noticed that the kitchen had a portion of it that had been blocked off with plywood. And they thought that this was incredibly strange, so they ended up questioning both Christopher and Diana about it. And Christopher claimed it was simply like that because he was building some sort of separate apartment in the home. But immediately after putting that in their reports, the officers said that they believed there was probable cause to make an arrest. So that is where the situation stood almost right off the get-go. Already, you can see there is just a lot of strange kind of things happening here. A lot of odd information, just the circumstances from start to finish, a little bit strange. And then you have an argument, someone going out of state, and then an 11-year-old somehow going missing in the midst of all of that, and those responsible for her don't even report it. You know, I am definitely one that tries to look at every angle of a situation and try to see the benefit of the doubt, try to have the benefit of the doubt in people, try to look at things from every possible perspective. But that sort of mix of information usually does not lead to very great outcomes. So police immediately began to investigate. Obviously, Diana has claimed that the last time Madalina was seen was the night of December 23rd, but she is the only person saying that. And given the track record and the circumstances that she did not even report her own daughter as missing, they needed to find some sort of other evidence to try to help confirm this timeline here. They went to the school and ended up finding that the surveillance actually captured her on November the 21st, the last day she was known to be at school. And this is the last real visual confirmed 100% sighting of Madalina. And it's actually what, like, the FBI list is the last time she was seen. So right away, police began to make pleas to the public, asking anyone that may have seen Madalina to come forward and help them create a tighter timeline. They needed to figure out some reference point, some point of direction in order to really start a more pinpointed search and canvassing. But until that point, they were searching far and wide. Because so much time had already passed, North Carolina SBI was immediately brought in. The FBI was immediately brought in. NCMEC has been nonstop posting everywhere that they possibly can photos of Madalina to hopefully help gather tips. Usually 24 to 48 hours after a disappearance is the most crucial time to be searching, to find everything that you can. But this little girl had been gone for weeks. That means that potential evidence could be gone. Witnesses could be gone. Surveillance footage could be deleted at this point. There is just so much that you can lose in that amount of time. They needed all hands on deck, every possible resource and every set of eyes out there looking for Madalina. Now, boots were on the ground nonstop. No stone was left unturned. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out ways I can send something to Charlotte FBI or the Cornelius Police Department, because this is also over the holidays, you guys. We're talking about this is going on over Christmas and now through the New Year's. And I can almost guarantee you that even if officers were not physically there searching while they were with their families, that's mentally where they were, was where could this little girl be? So they need a food delivery, someone to send them some pizza or something, because they have been working nonstop over the past couple of weeks to try and figure out where Madalina is. Right away, officers started going door to door. I believe they went to over 250 homes to question these nearby residents that lived right along Victoria Bay to see if they had any information at all, whether that is a sighting, whether they noticed something strange. And nowadays, we're in the age where everybody has a Ring doorbell camera or some sort of surveillance on their home. And that could honestly be huge when it comes to piecing together this timeline. Now, police are keeping everything very close to the vest, understandably. So we don't know if all of that canvassing got them any more information, but I can only hope that it did. They also went to dozens upon dozens of nearby businesses to check for surveillance as well. This neighborhood, as I said, backs up to Lake Norman, but it's a big residential neighborhood and it is surrounded by a bunch of other residential neighborhoods and businesses and highway, and there's just a lot going on here. And while that can unfortunately create a very complex situation because you are by a highway and a very large body of water, there's also that much more of a chance that someone saw something. So they were really pushing as much as they possibly could. I know that billboards were put up all up and down the highway. They were searching on foot everywhere they possibly could. And then on the 17th, something pretty big happened. And this is just within days of Madalina being reported as missing. Both Diana and Christopher were arrested. Now, there is a law in North Carolina, thank goodness, that requires guardians to report their child as missing in a reasonable amount of time. And 3+ weeks is not a reasonable amount of time. Shout out to Kaylee's Law. That has changed things. From my understanding, that is why a law like this exists in North Carolina. I will also be covering Evelyn Boswell in my next video, and that also sparked a law very similar to this one. And basically, because they failed to report Madalina as missing properly, they are now facing felony charges because of that. And so they are both being held in Mecklenburg County Detention Center. Diana is being held on a $250,000 bond, and Christopher is being held on a $200,000 bond. If they somehow make said bond, which from my knowledge they have not, they're still listed as current inmates in that detention center, and I checked that like literally prior to filming this video. They would have to wear electronic like ankle monitoring systems, and they both were required to surrender their passports. So they're not going to be going anywhere, I don't think. But even still, while now they are in jail, they have no choice but to sit there and await their charges. And all of that, they still both strongly maintain that they had absolutely nothing to do and have no knowledge of what happened to Madalina in regards to her disappearance. And this case ended up blowing up in the media and is now known across the world. And that's probably because it has all of the typical red flags that we have all seen way too many times. And so it's clear that something is very wrong here, and everyone wants to get to the bottom of it. Now, on the 19th, just after Diana and Christopher were arrested, Cornelius Police Department announced on their Facebook page, which, by the way, they are very active on. They communicate as much as they possibly can on there and put all of their updates there. But they announced that they were expanding their search area to nearby bodies of water, including Cornelius Lake, which is right off of Lake Norman. And they also said that they were going to be searching smaller surrounding bodies of water. Now, they did not say that there was a specific tip or anything that led them to this location, that this was just the next step they would be taking. It's literally just the sequence of events that typically happens during an investigation. But they do have a ton of tips. This search so far has taken authorities across the world at this point, and they have followed over 250 leads. But so far, despite all of this information coming in, despite so many people wanting to help, Madalina has still yet to be found. There were multiple warrants that were issued for the family home, and the neighborhood watched and news stations watched as box after box and tote after tote were taken from the home, which, I mean, obviously when things are taken from a home, I feel like everyone's first thought is, oh, that has to be something of importance. There was a CSI car out there. And a lot of people have said there must be evidence then. They are essentially taking everything they possibly can just to ensure they have everything they will ever need. It was stated that they, quote, legally gathered each and every possible piece of evidence to find Madalina. So while this is still a missing persons case, it is very clear that they are trying to cross every single T and dot every single I to make sure that they have everything they need if this ever crosses the line into something else, which it's really feeling like that could absolutely be the case. And honestly, that is a refreshing breath of air, because how many cases do we look into where that is not at all what happens, where a missing persons case is only treated as that, and then here you are years later and authorities never collected any evidence or anything necessary. Then on December 22nd, a letter was released by the FBI. They stated, I'm going to look at the Twitter post right now. The FBI Charlotte stated, "We want to share a personal handwritten message from Madalina's family. Please read it and put yourself in their shoes. They ask for your positive thoughts, continued support, and information to help #find Madalina." So no one has any idea who wrote this letter. They're just saying it's from Madalina's family. It's dated December 22nd. And everyone kind of thought this was a very strange way for people to kind of get their comments out about the disappearance of Madalina, and it led also a lot of people to believe that because it's handwritten, it could possibly have come from her mother. But if this was in fact written by some sort of extended family member, I could also see that as well. There is so much going on in this case, so much media attention and so much speculation that it's very possible an extended family member wanted to be able to say what they needed to, wanted to be able to thank people, which is essentially what is in this note, and just did not want to jeopardize their life and well-being and who knows what by having their name, identity, all of that put out there. But it could also very easily come from the mother. We have absolutely no idea, but this is what it says. We as a family are devastated and absolutely heartbroken to learn that Madalina is missing. We love Madalina and are shocked by these circumstances. This is something no child or family should ever have to endure. Our family is doing everything we know to do to support the efforts to find Madalina and bring her home. We are and continue to have hope and positivity in this difficult time and pray that she is found safe very soon. We know and greatly appreciate that the local, state, national, and online communities have come together to share flyers, offer positive support, hold prayer vigils, support law enforcement, and are doing everything possible to find and bring Madalina safely home. We are also appreciative of all the efforts, endless hours, and boots on the ground of the local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies involved with the same goal. Madalina is a beautiful, smart, kind, and loving 11-year-old girl with greatness in her future. We are desperate to find her right now. She needs all of our help. We ask for your continued positive support in sharing far and wide the posters and pictures of Madalina. Each and every share may be one step closer to finding her. If you believe you have seen Madalina or have any information related to her whereabouts, please contact your local law enforcement agency or the Cornelius, North Carolina Police Department and come forward with this information. Anything may help. Our family would like to express sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for your support. Our family will continue to do everything we know and learn to do for Madalina's safe return home. Blessings. So clearly someone out there in Madalina's family desperately wants to find answers along with everybody else. And by December 27th, Captain Jennifer Thompson ended up posting a video to the Cornelius Police Department Facebook page as an update.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Jennifer Thompson of the Cornelius Police Department. First, on behalf of our command staff, our town manager, and elected officials, I want to say thank you to all the agencies who are assisting us in our search for Madalina. Over the past 12 days, the Cornelius Police Department has led a massive investigation to find 11-year-old Madalina Cojocari. One of the challenges in this case, simply put, we were not notified she was gone, a delay of 3 weeks. School officials had repeatedly tried to contact Madalina's parents. Finally, on December 15th, Madalina's mother walked into school and said her daughter was missing. We immediately called in partners from across the state and from the FBI. Since that Thursday, nearly 2 weeks ago, hundreds of agents, detectives, analysts, and other employees surged. In cooperation with the district attorney's office, we arrested Madalina's mother, Diana Cojocari, and her stepfather, Christopher Palmer. Thankfully, the state of North Carolina has a law that makes it illegal if someone fails to report a missing child to law enforcement. Here are some of the specifics. Investigators have developed and followed nearly 250 leads spanning across state lines and across the globe. We have interviewed hundreds of people in North Carolina and other states and again, across the globe. We went door to door to at least 245 homes, focusing on the Victoria Bay community where Madalina lives. We canvassed businesses and scoured through hours of surveillance video from all over the area. We also led land and water searches around Lake Cornelius as a precautionary measure. We know everyone has a lot of questions. We also have questions and are doing everything we can with proper legal authority to get those answers. We know you understand us sharing investigative details could harm our efforts in finding Madalina. The Cornelius Police Department is so grateful for the tremendous outpouring of support. This is a serious case of a child whose parents clearly are not telling us everything they know. Please call us if you have eyewitness information. Thank you for your time and efforts to help us find
Really?
Madalina.
So clearly, all investigating agencies are doing absolutely everything that they can. All hands are on deck, and they are just asking for patience and support along the way. And they've also made it very clear, like absolutely as blunt as possible, that they believe that Diana and Christopher have more information. They are hiding something, and that just makes me question a lot. What is up with this strange trip to Michigan to grab items, like literally quote items? It just makes me worried that this search needs to be a lot bigger than Cornelius, North Carolina, that it could possibly stretch anywhere between North Carolina and Michigan. And that is very, very scary to think, especially because all of those places have received a ton of snow. I mean, there's a huge chance a lot of them will not thaw out until spring. And so there's a lot of very scary possibilities when it comes to that. I just genuinely hope that being held in jail eventually pushes one of these individuals to give over whatever information they may have, because clearly something is going on here. And while the search is continuing for Madalina, they're still out there searching. The community is also coming together to try and fight for her. There are numerous Facebook pages. Locals have been holding vigils. I believe they had one just prior to Christmas, and they had a moment of silence. And it was 10 seconds for every day that Madalina has been gone. And I believe that meant their moment of silence lasted for about 5 minutes. Everyone is fighting to bring Madalina home or bring forward the truth. Now, I will say there is a lot of information out there that people are doing in their own web sleuthing. There are a lot of different theories and rumors and bits of speculation going around. That is something that is bound to happen in cases, but when you have a case that's being this publicized with these kinds of details, it's going to run absolutely rampant. And unfortunately, some of it has gotten to the point where the Cornelius Police Department has had to actually speak up and tell people to not look into that speculation. And it's unfortunately causing a huge spread of misinformation. There are apparently videos and some news sources and other sources where those things are spreading, and it's simply not correct. So basically take things that you say or hear with a grain of salt and just double check it against what the FBI has posted, what the police department has posted, and the known information in the case, like the concrete facts that we have so far, because there are some wild theories going around out there. Honestly, I have the absolute worst feeling in the pit of my stomach about this case. When you look at the possibilities, you have to keep them all open because nobody knows. There's nothing confirmed at this point. When it comes to her potentially, ending up being abducted or anything along those lines, that just doesn't seem likely. There's no evidence at all that really suggests that. When it comes to her potentially running away, Diana said that her book bag was missing, some clothing items were missing. So maybe again, she was like, my family's fighting, there's too much going on. I want to get out of here. And then maybe from that point, something happened to her. But I live relatively close by, and I actually live in an area that's colder than this area. And around that time was not incredibly cold. So I don't see her succumbing to any elements or anything of the sort. If so, it likely would have been somewhere nearby. And I believe she likely would have been found in the searches. On top of that, I don't see how she would have left on foot and not been captured through any of the homes she would have had to walk by or any of the businesses she would have had to walk by. And there really was no other option but to walk basically in front of all these homes down her road, because the back part was the woods and the lakes. So again, I just don't know how plausible I find that to be, but it also has not technically been ruled out that we know of. But obviously, we're all very well aware of what a lot of this information is suggesting, and that's something that police have also confirmed, that someone knows something, particularly her parents, that they are not saying. And so I have full faith in all the investigating agencies that they are going to hopefully get to the bottom of this. But again, I'm scared for how it's going to end, if I'm being real honest. So I will make sure to keep you guys as updated as I possibly can. I've been watching this case like a hawk since it first happened, and being so close, I typically get the news on this incredibly quickly. So I will keep you guys updated. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Someone potentially knows something. And if she somehow ended up on that trip between here and Michigan, again, there's no telling who may have seen her, how far away she may have been seen. And so spreading this information far and wide will hopefully bring forward tips that help authorities as much as humanly possible. Now, on that note, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. I want to say a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to Madalina's story. This is the first time, again, that I've really covered a case that is currently happening, like right now. And so I don't know how like my coverage is going to be after this. If there are updates, it's more likely I'm going to throw them in at the beginning of an upcoming video, unless it's something absolutely huge. So make sure that you have my notifications on, that you check out my videos to hear any updates on this. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and go. Thank you guys again. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below to become a part of the Hallen fam so that we can hopefully bring them home together or bring them justice together. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.